The massive space station hung in the darkness like a glittering city made of crystal and metal. Ambassador Jinwoo Park pressed his face against the small window of the human shuttle, watching as they approached the structure that dwarfed anything Earth had ever built. The station stretched for kilometers in every direction, its towers and domes spinning slowly in the void. "First time seeing it never gets old," muttered Captain Boram, the shuttle pilot. Her hands moved expertly over the controls as alien traffic control guided them toward a docking bay. "Still can't believe we're actually invited to join their club." Jinwoo straightened his formal blue diplomatic uniform and checked his translator device one more time. Beside him, Dr. Hana Kim was reviewing her presentation files on a tablet, her finger nervously scrolling through pages of Earth's planetary data. "Remember what they told us in training," Hana said quietly. "Keep everything simple and factual. No need to overcomplicate things." The shuttle shuddered gently as it connected to the docking port. Through the walls, they could hear the hiss of atmospheric processors working to create a breathable environment in the connecting tunnel. Jinwoo took a deep breath and stood up. "Ready to make history?" he asked. The airlock opened with a soft whistle, and they stepped into a corridor that seemed designed by architects from a dozen different worlds. The walls curved in impossible angles, covered in patterns that hurt to look at directly. Floating, lights drifted overhead like lazy fireflies while the floor beneath their feet felt solid, but seemed to ripple like water. Their alien escort was waiting for them. Commander Velka stood nearly 3 meters tall, with skin that looked like polished stone and forearms that moved with surprising grace. When he spoke, his voice came through their translators as a pleasant baritone. "Welcome, humans of Earth. The Council eagerly awaits your presentation." They walked through corridors filled with beings that Jinwoo had only seen in briefing videos. A group of floating, jellyfish-like creatures drifted past, their translucent bodies pulsing with soft light. Near a junction, 2 beings that looked like walking trees were deep in conversation, their bark-like skin creaking as they gestured with branch-like arms. "How many species are there?" Hana whispered. "In the Council?" 47 full members, Velka replied, apparently having heard her. "Today, representatives from 32 species are present to hear your world's assessment." The council chamber took Jinwoo's breath away. It was a vast spherical room with seating arranged in tiers that curved around them like the inside of a planet. Each section was designed for different types of beings. Some areas were filled with water for aquatic species. Others glowed with intense heat for beings that needed high temperatures. Some sections were completely dark, presumably for species that had evolved without light. The variety of life forms was staggering. Jinwoo saw beings made of what looked like living crystal, their bodies refracting light into rainbow patterns. In another section, creatures that resembled walking flames sat in specially designed heat chambers. Near the top of the chamber, beings that looked like silver liquid flowed and reformed themselves as they communicated through color changes. Council Prime Veltar called the session to order. He was an ancient being whose species Jinwoo couldn't identify, with a face that seemed to be carved from black stone and eyes that glowed like small stars. "Today we welcome the species known as humans from the planet they call Earth," Veltar announced. His voice carried easily through the chamber without amplification. "They seek membership in our galactic community." Jinwoo walked to the center platform, feeling the weight of dozens of alien gazes upon him. The platform rose smoothly, bringing him level with the lowest tier of seating. "Honored members of the Galactic Council," he began, his voice steady despite his racing heart. "I am Ambassador Jinwoo Park, representing the planet Earth and all humanity. We come before you seeking not just membership, but partnership in building a peaceful galaxy." The chamber remained silent, waiting. Jinwoo gestured to Hana, who activated the holographic display system. Earth appeared in the center of the chamber, a blue and white marble spinning slowly for all to see. "Dr. Hana Kim will now present our planetary assessment," Jinwoo continued. Hana stepped forward, her scientific training helping her maintain composure in front of the most diverse audience in the galaxy. She began with the basics, Earth size, mass, and distance from their sun. The alien delegates listened politely, occasionally making notes on devices Jin Woo couldn't begin to understand. Earth orbits our star at an optimal distance for supporting life, Hana explained. Our planet has a stable atmosphere composed primarily of nitrogen and oxygen. Some of the delegates shifted in their seats at this. Jin Woo noticed several species seemed surprised by the oxygen content, but Hana continued her presentation. Our world supports an incredible diversity of life forms, she said, showing images of forests, deserts, and mountains. But perhaps, most significantly, Earth's surface consists of approximately 29% landmass and 71% liquid water oceans. The chamber fell completely silent. Even the constant background hum of the station system seemed to fade away. Jin Woo looked around, confused by the sudden stillness. Then the questions began. The silence in the chamber stretched like a taut wire. Jin Woo watched as alien faces turned toward each other, their expressions unreadable but clearly filled with confusion. The translator devices around the room began chattering in dozens of languages as delegates tried to confirm what they had just heard. Council Prime Veltar leaned forward in his seat, his glowing eyes fixed on Hana. "Dr. Kim," he said slowly, "there appears to be an error in our translation systems. Did you say that 71% of your planet's surface is covered in liquid water?" Hana blinked, surprised by the question. "Yes, that's correct. Our oceans contain vast amounts of liquid water. They cover most of our planet's surface." A delegate from the far side of the chamber stood up abruptly. The being looked like it was made of red crystal, and when it moved, Jin Woo could hear a sound like wind chimes. "This is impossible," the crystal being said, its voice ringing through the translators. "Water cannot exist in liquid form on a planetary surface. The physics make no sense." Jin Woo looked at Hana, who seemed as confused as he felt. "I'm sorry," Hana said, "but I don't understand the problem. Water exists as a liquid on Earth under normal conditions." Another delegate rose from a section filled with swirling mist. This being looked like a walking tree made of metal, with branches that sparked with small electrical discharges. "You speak of normal conditions," it said, "but water in liquid form requires very specific temperature and pressure ranges. Such conditions cannot occur naturally across an entire planet." Hana activated the holographic display again, this time showing detailed images of Earth's Pacific Ocean. The blue water stretched endlessly to the horizon, with white waves breaking against distant shores. The chamber erupted in gasps and sounds that the translators couldn't interpret. "This is our Pacific Ocean," Hana explained, her voice growing more confident as she realized she was teaching rather than being questioned. "It's one of 5 major bodies of water on our planet. The deepest parts reach over 11 kilometers below the surface." A small, furry creature in the upper tiers let out what sounded like a squeak of disbelief. 11 kilometers of liquid water? How do you contain it? What materials could possibly hold such massive quantities? "We don't contain it," Jin Woo said, finally understanding that something fundamental was being lost in translation. "The water exists naturally. It's held in place by gravity, just like our atmosphere." The chamber fell silent again. But this time the quiet had a different quality. It was the silence of minds struggling to process information that challenged everything they thought they knew. A delegate that looked like a walking flame in a special heat suit leaned forward. "You're telling us that liquid water simply sits on your planet's surface, without artificial containment systems or climate control?" "That's right," Hana confirmed. She switched the display to show a river flowing through a forest. "This is the Amazon River. It flows for over 6,000 kilometers across our largest continent, carrying fresh water from mountains to the ocean." The crystal being made a sound like breaking glass. "Fresh water? You mean water without dissolved minerals for preservation?" "Well, it has some minerals," Hana said. "But yes, it's fresh enough for humans and animals to drink directly." This statement caused an even bigger reaction. Delegates began standing and talking rapidly in their own languages. The translation system struggled to keep up with the multiple conversations happening simultaneously. A being that looked like A giant insect with wings made of light buzzed loudly. You drink liquid water? Directly from these rivers and oceans? Not from the oceans, Jinwoo clarified quickly. Ocean water contains too much salt. But yes, we drink fresh water every day. Every human needs several liters of water daily to survive. The insect being's wings fluttered faster. Several liters? Per individual, per day? It paused, apparently calculating. With your species population, that would require... The calculation seemed to overwhelm the being, and it sat down heavily. Hana decided to show more images. The display shifted to show Niagara Falls with thousands of liters of water cascading down rocky cliffs every second. Then came images of lakes, streams, and even humans swimming in the ocean for recreation. Water is essential to all life on Earth, Hana continued. Plants need it to grow, animals drink it to survive. We use it for cooking, cleaning, and transportation. Some humans even play sports in the water. The chamber was now filled with urgent conversations. Jinwoo noticed that several delegates were frantically operating communication devices, apparently sending messages to their home worlds. Council Prime Veltar raised one hand and the chamber gradually quieted. Dr. Kim, he said, his voice carrying a weight that hadn't been there before, you mentioned that this water falls from your sky as precipitation. Can you explain this process? Hana nodded enthusiastically. Of course. When our sun heats the ocean water, it evaporates into the atmosphere. The water vapor forms clouds, which then release the water back to the surface as rain or snow. The silence that followed was absolute. Even the station's background systems seemed to hold their breath. Finally, a small voice from the upper tiers spoke. Your sun powers this process without artificial assistance? Yes, Hana said simply. We call it the water cycle. It happens naturally all over our planet. Jinwoo realized they had just announced something that would change the galaxy forever. Council Prime Veltar called for a temporary break, and Jinwoo found himself being escorted from the main chamber by a tall, scarred alien wearing what looked like military armor. The being had 6 arms and skin that appeared to be made of dark metal, with deep gouges and burn marks covering his body. I am Commander Tal of the Void Rangers, the alien said as they walked down a quieter corridor. We need to talk, Ambassador Park. You have no idea what you just announced in there. They entered a small room with curved walls covered in strange symbols. Tal activated a device, and suddenly the walls came alive with moving pictures and lights. Jinwoo stepped back in surprise as images of space battles filled the room around them. What you're seeing, Tal said, his voice heavy with old pain, is the history your species never learned. For 3,000 years, water has been the cause of our greatest wars. The images showed massive spaceships fighting around a frozen moon. Explosions lit up the darkness as fleets of vessels battled for control of what looked like ice formations floating in space. Jinwoo watched in horror as entire ships were destroyed, their crews lost to the void. This was the Battle of the Ice Rings, Tal explained. 12 species fought for 7 years over the frozen water deposits around the dead planet Kalos. Over 2 million beings died for what your people would call a small lake. The display changed to show a barren red planet. Cities lay in ruins, their towers broken and empty. This was my homeworld, Tal continued, his 6 arms gesturing toward the devastation. We called it Velthara. It was beautiful once with great cities and billions of my people. Jinwoo stared at the ruined world. What happened to it? We ran out of water, Tal said simply. Our planet was already dry, but we had managed to collect enough ice from nearby asteroids to survive. Then the Crystal Collective discovered a rich water source in our system. They wanted it all. The images showed Tal's people, tall beings, with metallic skin like his own, fighting desperately against crystalline invaders. The battles raged across space and on the planet's surface, but the outcome was clear from Tal's expression. We fought for 50 years, he said. In the end, both sides had spent so much resources on the war that neither could afford to maintain the water collection systems. My world died of thirst while we fought over ice. Jinwoo felt sick. How many people died? Everyone, Tal replied. I was off-world when the last cities failed. I'm one of maybe 1,000 survivors of my entire species. The display changed again, showing a map of the galaxy with different colored sections. Most of the map was red or orange, with only small areas marked in blue or green. Red means water poor, Tal explained. Orange means limited water access. Most of the galaxy lives in these zones. The blue and green areas are controlled by the few species that found ways to collect and store water from space. Jinwoo studied the map. The blue areas were tiny compared to the vast red regions. So the species with water control everything? They control trade, politics, military power, everything, Tal confirmed. The 5 great houses built their empires on water monopolies. A single liter of pure water can buy enough food to feed a family for months on most worlds. The room filled with new images showing massive mining operations on asteroids and moons. Huge machines carved ice from frozen surfaces while fleets of ships waited to transport the precious cargo. We've strip-mined entire solar systems looking for ice, Tal said. Destroyed countless worlds and moons to get at frozen water deposits. Species have gone extinct fighting over comet fragments. Jinwoo thought about Earth's endless oceans, the rain that fell regularly, the rivers that flowed year-round. But surely some planets must have had water naturally. Tal made a sound that might have been bitter laughter. In 3,000 years of galactic exploration, we've found exactly 7 worlds with small amounts of naturally occurring liquid water. The largest was a pond maybe 50 meters across. Even those planets were fought over until nothing remained. The display showed one of these worlds, now a smoking ruin covered in battle scars. The War of 7 Drops, Tal said. 15 species destroyed each other over a water source smaller than what you probably have in a single building. New images appeared, showing desperate scenes of beings fighting hand-to-hand over containers of water. Children with sunken eyes reached for empty cups. Entire cities had been built around single wells that had long since run dry. Water became more than survival, Tal continued. It became power, religion, the measure of all worth. Species that controlled even small amounts of water could dictate terms to entire star systems. Jinwoo stared at the images of devastation and desperation. And we just told you that our entire planet is covered in liquid water. You told us, Tal said quietly, that you have more freely available water than has been fought over in the entire recorded history of galactic civilization. You told us that it falls from your sky and flows in rivers across your continents. The room went quiet, except for the soft hum of the display systems. Jinwoo finally understood why the council chamber had fallen silent, why delegates were frantically contacting their homeworlds. What happens now? He asked. Tal's scarred face looked grim. Now, Ambassador Park, your species becomes either the galaxy's greatest hope or its next target for conquest. The council chamber looked different when Jinwoo and Hana returned. The orderly rows of alien delegates had broken into small groups, their voices creating a buzz of urgent conversation that the translators couldn't keep up with. Some beings gestured wildly with multiple arms while others sat perfectly still, apparently deep in thought. Council Prime Veltar called for order, but it took several minutes for the delegates to return to their seats. Jinwoo noticed that many more communication devices were active now, their lights blinking as messages flew between the station and distant homeworlds. Dr. Kim, Veltar said, his glowing eyes focused intently on Hana. Please continue your presentation. The council has many questions about your planet's water systems. Hana stepped forward, now aware that every word she spoke carried weight beyond anything she had imagined. What would you like to know? A delegate that looked like a walking mountain of gray stone raised one massive arm. You mentioned that water evaporates from your oceans and falls as rain. How much energy does this process require? Energy? Hana looked confused. It doesn't require any energy from us. The sun provides all the energy needed for evaporation. The stone being's voice rumbled like an earthquake. Your star powers atmospheric water processing for an entire planet? Without artificial assistance or technological enhancement? That's right, Hana confirmed. It's completely natural. The sun heats the water, it rises into the atmosphere, forms clouds, and then falls back down as rain. Excited chatter broke out across several sections of the chamber. Jinwoo watched as delegates frantically took notes or operated recording devices. A jellyfish-like being floating in a water-filled section pulsed with bright colors. This rain, it said through the translators. How often does it occur? It varies by location, Hana explained, but most places on Earth receive rain regularly throughout the year. Some areas get rain almost daily. The jellyfish being's colors shifted to what Jinwoo assumed was shock. Daily precipitation? Across multiple continental land masses? Yes, Hana said. Our tropical regions can receive several meters of rainfall per year. This caused an even bigger reaction. Several delegates stood up simultaneously, their alien faces showing what could only be described as disbelief. A being that looked like it was made of living fire spoke from within a special heat chamber. Dr. Kim, you're describing water management systems that would require the industrial output of entire civilizations. How many beings does your planet dedicate to maintaining these atmospheric processors? Hana blinked in confusion. We don't maintain them. There are no processors, it's just weather. The chamber fell silent again. Jinwoo could feel the weight of alien minds struggling to understand concepts that humans took for granted. Weather, repeated the crystal being that had spoken earlier. You use this word as if it explains everything. Well, Hana said, trying to be helpful. Weather is just what happens when air masses with different temperatures and humidity levels interact in our atmosphere. The water cycle is part of that system. She activated the holographic display again, showing a simplified diagram of evaporation, cloud formation, and precipitation. Water evaporates from the oceans, rises into the atmosphere, condenses into clouds, and falls back down as rain or snow. The display showed the process happening over and over again, water cycling endlessly between the oceans, atmosphere, and land. A small, furry delegate in the upper tiers squeaked loudly. This process operates continuously, without maintenance, schedules, or energy input calculations? It's been operating for billions of years, Jinwoo said, long before humans existed. The implications of this statement seemed to hit the delegates like a physical blow. Several beings sat down heavily, while others began paging through what looked like scientific texts or databases. Commander Tal entered the chamber and approached the speaker's platform. He whispered something urgent to Council Prime Veltar, who nodded grimly. Ambassador Park, Veltar announced, we have received reports that several unauthorized deep space scanning operations are currently targeting your solar system. It appears that news of your presentation has reached certain parties outside this chamber. Jinwoo felt his stomach drop. What kind of scanning operations? Long-range resource assessment probes, Tal replied from where he stood near the platform, the kind typically used to evaluate targets for water harvesting operations. Hana looked pale. Targets? The crystal being that had been asking questions earlier stood up again. Dr. Kim, you must understand that what you've described changes everything we thought we knew about planetary science. If Earth's water systems operate as you claim, your world represents more available water than currently exists in the controlled reserves of all 47 council member species combined. Another delegate, this one resembling a giant butterfly with wings of shifting light, fluttered anxiously. The economic implications alone could destabilize every trade agreement in the galaxy. Water-based currencies, resource allocation treaties, territorial boundaries established around ice mining rights. All of it becomes meaningless if unlimited liquid water exists naturally. Jinwoo realized that Earth's casual abundance had just made humanity the center of a galactic crisis they never saw coming. The chamber erupted into chaos as delegates began shouting questions and demands simultaneously. Some wanted immediate access to Earth's water management technology. Others demanded proof that humans weren't using advanced atmospheric engineering that they were hiding from the Council. Through it all, Jinwoo caught fragments of translated, conversations about fleet movements, emergency meetings, and something called resource security protocols. Earth had wanted to join a peaceful galactic community. Instead, they had just announced that they possessed the galaxy's most precious resource in impossible abundance. The emergency vote took place after 18 hours of non-stop debate. Jinwoo sat in the observation area, exhausted and overwhelmed by the chaos that Earth's simple presentation had unleashed. Delegates had been arriving throughout the night. Species that hadn't attended a council meeting in decades suddenly appeared via long-range communication links. Council Prime Veltar's voice cut through the noise. The vote is complete. By unanimous decision, the species known as humans will be granted immediate full membership in the Galactic Council. Jinwoo started to stand, but Veltar continued. Furthermore, Earth will be granted a permanent seat on the newly established Planetary Resources Committee, with special advisory status on all water-related matters. The chamber erupted in mixed reactions. Some delegates seemed pleased while others looked worried or even angry. However, Veltar's voice grew more serious. This membership comes with the Galactic Cooperation Mandate. Earth must share its atmospheric management knowledge with member species whose worlds face environmental collapse. Hana leaned over to Jinwoo. They still think our weather is technology we can export, she whispered. Commander Tal approached their section. Ambassador, we need to discuss immediate security concerns. My rangers have detected 7 separate fleets changing course toward your solar system. Jinwoo felt his blood turn cold. Military fleets? 3 are definitely military, Tal confirmed. 2 are mining operations with heavy escort ships. The other 2 appear to be research vessels, but they're armed. On the main display, Veltar was showing a galactic map with dozens of red dots moving toward Earth's location. As you can see, news of Earth's water abundance has created significant interest throughout the galaxy. A delegate that looked like a walking tree made of silver metal stood up. The Iron Desert Coalition formally requests immediate terraforming assistance. Our 12 member worlds have less than 50 years of water reserves remaining, another voice called out from across the chamber. The Crystal Collective offers our entire energy production output for the next century in exchange for 1 year's worth of Earth's surplus water. More demands followed. Species after species stood to make desperate requests or impossible offers. Jinwoo watched the bidding war escalate as civilizations offered their most precious technologies, entire star systems, and even military alliances for access to Earth's water. Stop. Jinwoo finally stood up, his voice carrying clearly through the chamber. You're talking about our home. We can't just give away our planet's water supply. The chamber fell quiet. A small bird-like creature with rainbow feathers spoke in a voice like singing crystal. But surely you understand our desperation. Your single world has more water than our entire civilization has seen in 1,000 years. Hana activated her tablet and quickly calculated something. If I understand correctly, you're asking for quantities of water that would drain our oceans. That would destroy all life on Earth, including us. A murmur of confusion went through the assembled delegates. The crystal being from earlier tilted its head. But you said the water cycle is self-sustaining. Surely you can simply accelerate the process to produce more. It doesn't work that way, Hana explained patiently. The water cycle maintains a balance. If we remove too much water, the system breaks down. The reality of the situation was beginning to sink in for both humans and aliens alike. Earth's water wasn't a resource that could be harvested without consequences. It was an integral part of a living world. Commander Tal's communication device chirped urgently. He listened for a moment, then approached Jinwoo with a grim expression. Ambassador, I'm receiving reports of unauthorized landings on 3 of your outer system's moons. It appears some parties have decided to begin resource surveys without waiting for permission. Jinwoo felt overwhelmed. In less than a day, Earth had gone from seeking membership in a peaceful alliance to being the target of what amounted to a galactic gold rush. Council Prime Veltar called for order again. It is clear that Earth's situation requires special protection protocols. The Council hereby establishes a no-approach zone around the Sol system. Any unauthorized vessels will be intercepted by Void Ranger patrols. This announcement caused another uproar. Several delegates objected loudly, claiming that protecting Earth's water gave humans unfair advantages in galactic trade. A new voice cut through the arguments. Dr. Min-Ho Chen, Earth's leading hydrologist, appeared on the communication screen from Seoul. Ambassador Park, we've been monitoring the situation from Earth. We may have a solution. Jinwoo looked up hopefully. What kind of solution? We can't export our water, Dr. Chen explained, but we might be able to export our knowledge. Not technology, understanding. We can teach other species how to identify worlds that might naturally support water cycles. The chamber gradually quieted as delegates considered this possibility. Furthermore, Dr. Chen continued, Earth's universities are prepared to establish a Galactic Atmospheric Sciences Institute. We can train scientists from other worlds to understand planetary water systems. Jinwoo saw hope flickering in alien faces around the chamber. This wasn't about taking Earth's water. It was about learning how to find or create water elsewhere. Veltar nodded slowly. This proposal has merit. Rather than depleting one world's resources, we could potentially discover or develop water sources throughout the galaxy. As the session wound down, Jinwoo realized that humanity had stumbled into a role they never expected. They weren't just joining galactic civilization, they were potentially saving it. But outside the chamber, sensor arrays continued to track the approaching fleets, and Jinwoo knew that not everyone would be satisfied with knowledge instead of water. The stars that had once seemed so peaceful now felt very crowded indeed.